Hello everyone, welcome to this Python QA series where we answer questions from the comment section. If you have any question, just put it in the comments and we're going to answer it in the next video. In this video, we're answering how to reverse a list in Python. As you can see here, it's very easy. You just use slicing and you specify for the step size, you specify -1. Let me demonstrate it here, you see how it works. So you see we pass 5, 6, 1, 2, 8, 9, it reverses it to 9, 8, to 1 until 5. So from the right. Here we're not sorting, we're just reversing the order of elements in the list. Now let's look at how the code actually works. So here I'm showing how an iterable appears in Python. This can be a string, or it can be a list, or it can be any iterable that uses integer indexing. So as you know, to access the first element, you use the index 0, and to access the next element, you use the index 1. For slicing, use square brackets, and you specify the beginning of the slice and the end of the slice and the close of the bracket. As you know, the end is excluded from the final slice. For example, here if you specify the index 1 to 4, slicing will begin on index 1 and it will end on index 3. Therefore, this slice will just get the elements LIC. Alternatively, you can leave out the beginning of the slice, and in this case, it will start from index 0 until the end of the slice. So in this example, it will start from 0 until 3. As you know, it doesn't include the end of the slice, which is 4 here. Another way is that you can only specify the beginning of the slice and you leave out the end of the slice. In this case, the slicing will go until the final element that you have. So here in this example where we have from 1 and we leave out the end of the slice, here to slice from index 1 until the end of this. And finally, if you don't specify the beginning of the slice and the end of the slice, then it will just get everything. An optional element that we haven't talked about so far is the step size. This tells Python how many steps to take from the beginning of the slice to the next element. So when you don't specify the step size, the default is 1. For example, in this case, if you start at 1 and you're taking 1 step, it means the next element is 2. And if you take 1 more step here, the next element is 3. And as you already know, you don't include the end of the slice. So this is the default. The step size is 1. Look at this example where we specify the step size to be 2. So when it starts at the beginning of the slice, it's going to take 2 steps from this element to the next element, which is 1, 2, and therefore the next element that will be picked is in index 3. Therefore, the output of this slice will be L and C. It will skip I because of this step size of 2. One thing that we haven't talked about so far is that in Python you can use negative indices. Negative indices always start from the end of your variable. For example, here -1 index is the S here and -2 is E. -6 index is the S, which is 0 if you're using positive indices. And in slicing, you can also use negative indices just as we use positive indices. But just remember that negative indices are when you want to do a slice starting from the right. Let's see an example of using negative indices to take a slice here. So here we've specified from -1 to -4. So this is from -1. And as you know, the end of the index is not included. So it's up to -3. And we've taken a step size of -2. Which means from the beginning of the element, take -2 steps to the next element. So -2 steps means from the right side 2 steps. So here we take -2 steps, which is -1 and -2. So the output of this slice is SC. So this works whether you're using strings or lists or anything that use integer indices. So let's see this in code. Let's see this slicing in action here. So here I've defined the simple list 3, 4, 1, 2, 8, 9. Here when we talk about reversing the list, we're not talking about sorting the list. We're just talking about reversing the order of elements. That is 1, 9 to be at the beginning of the list and 1, 3 to be at the end of the list. So here let's start with a few examples of slicing. So if I say slice from 1 to 5, If I say here 1 to 5, we're taking elements from the first index until the fourth index. As you know, the index we specify here is not encoded in the slice. So if we want all the elements, we just put blank. So this will take all the elements in the list. And if we want to slice from the beginning but exclude some elements, we just specify the end here, and this would just go until the end. So we can also use negative indices. So for example, if I specify -1, we get the last element. If I want to skip some elements in the list, use the step size, for example 2, and this will skip one element, so it will take 2 steps from the first element. So the first element will be 3, 2 steps it will be 1, 2 other steps it will be 8. So if it had to take 2 other steps, 9 won't be included, therefore we only have 3, 1 to 8. And to reverse the list, we can just take advantage of negative indexing. So we want all the elements, so we put a blank here and a blank here, which means all the elements. And we put a -1 here. So this will reverse the elements. The first element it will pick will be 9, and then it will pick an 8, and all the one it reaches a 3 here. The function I showed at the beginning of the video is this function. So now to use it, we can just reverse. We had x, and it will reverse that. So let me show you reversing a different, and you see that it reverses this. So here, remember, in this reversing, we're not talking about sorting the list. We're just talking about changing the order of the elements in the list. So we want the last element to be the first, and the first element to be the last. So that's how you can reverse a list in Python. Do you have a question that you'd like me to answer in the next video? Put it in the comments below. If you found this video to be useful, like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching.